I am going to go ahead and call the May 14th meeting of the Oskaloosa School Board of Directors to order. The first item that I have is the approval of the agenda. And I think do we need to remove the one, or we just won't?
We'll just table it.
We'll just table that, okay. So you have the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
That's without B1.
Yeah, or we can just table it when we get, okay. So we're not going to do B1. Was that what your motion was? Or revised approval of the agenda? Is that what your motion was?
That, it can be.
Okay.
All right.
All
I was
right.
gonna say, we can just table it when we get to it.
So, all right, so we're not going to do B1.
Okay.
So it's a revised agenda, and I have the second. Any questions? If not, would you read the question?
Here's a move to approve the agenda, removing item 7B1.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next is the welcome of visitors and public comment. I did not get any comments for public comment, but we do have several visitors with our retirees and their families, so we want to welcome you. And I think the next item is the recognition of retirees.
Yes, we would like to take this opportunity to recognize a few of our retirees that are here with us today. So if they could come up, Marion Rom has been with the district for 6 years. And we would like to thank, I guess that's your job.
It's okay.
Thank Marion for her service. She is an instructional coach at the middle school, and appreciate everything she's done for Oskaloosa and the students here in Oskaloosa. So thank you very much. Thank you. Enjoy your retirement. Bruce McClellan. Bruce, we want to take this opportunity to thank you for 29 years of service. He gave his last orchestra concert last night, and it was absolutely fabulous. And we appreciate everything you've done. I think he said like 1,600 or 1,800 students he has taught over the 29 years, orchestra teacher. So we've been blessed to have him, and the students have as well, so thank you very much. I get all sappy with these kinds of things. And Ken Slager, did I say that right? Slager. Ken has driven a bus for us for 11 years, and if one of the hardest, most difficult jobs in a school district is driving a bus. If you've never tried it, you should ride on a bus and see. So we really appreciate everything you've done, and for keeping our kids safe for 11 years, transporting them back and forth to school, and we can never thank you enough. So thank you very much for everything you've done for our students and the school district. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jen.
We did have 3 others that weren't able to attend tonight. Patricia Erkenbrock is our middle school and high school media specialist, and she is also retiring after 12 years of service. She was unable to attend. Susan Bateson is an associate for us, and she has worked for us for 19 years. And then John Anderson is a custodian, and he is also retiring, and he has worked for us for 16 years. So if you see those people out and about in the community, thank them for serving our district all these years. So thank you very much, retirees, and we appreciate everything you've done. Next, okay. Am I going to make you guys get up and come down here too?
No,
You
can
can
just
do
pass them out
whatever,
here.
whatever.
Just pass them out?
Yeah, next item is the school board.
It is also a School Board Appreciation Month, and I don't know if you guys understand the amount of volunteer hours that these 7 individuals give to our district. They get paid nothing. Every year I always tell them I'll give them a raise, I'll double their pay. Because double or nothing is nothing. So they do volunteer all of their time, and it is more than just sitting up here every month for meetings. They also put in a lot of committee work and a commitment to going to activities and supporting our students and teachers. And so really appreciate everything they've done for me this year, and also all of the dedication that you've provided to our school district. So Carl Drost is first on the list. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Drost.
Appreciate it.
Craig Van Holzen. Thank you very
you.
much. Eric. Of course, they didn't make this easy.
No, we didn't make it easy for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda. McGraw, thank you very much. Lynette.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Shelley.
Thank
You don't
you.
get on camera because I'm
Thanks,
blocking
great.
the camera.
Good, that was a good strategy.
And we have one extra. Is that for you, Jen?
No, I don't think so. Spare
So
board
again,
members.
I don't think you really can fully understand unless you were a board member how many hours they do put in. It's enormous. So thank them very much for serving.
All right, well, thank you. Next item on our agenda is, and thank you
Yes,
for
you don't
those.
have to stay.
Yeah,
You're
for those
welcome
of
to
you
stay,
who
but you-
are retirees, you are welcome to stay for our entire meeting if you would like, but you will not offend us if you do not stay.
And media, I'm struggling with my internet right now, but I promise the board packet's coming as soon as I can get it to you. Is it back up?
Okay, well, I'll move on then. The next item on our agenda is reports, communications, and announcements. So let's kind of go through there. Any comments on reports from any of the schools anybody's got?
I just had one comment, and Mrs. Wright alluded to it a little bit, but that concert last night was absolutely awesome, and I'm not the most musically inclined person in the world, but I counted up of the two choirs, the orchestra and the band, there's 240 names listed out of our 4 grades out of the high school, and I think maybe 20 of them overlapped, so there was approximately 220 people there. And when people miss the last number of the Battle Hymn of the Republic with everybody participating, and I think it was, I know for my mind it was tremendous, but to watch the 3 music directors working together as a team to put that performance on, I thought really spoke highly of our music program. And Mr. McClellan did a fantastic job with his last speech to the community about how the music department has worked together, and there wasn't jealousy or anything, and that was shown by the number of people who crossed between the different programs. And I think we just need to be fortunate that we have an arts program that is as successful as what that was, and to be a school this size that has an orchestra with, I think I counted 50, I think it was 50 people in the orchestra. To be a school our size with an orchestra like that is something we all need to be very grateful for and toot our horn over. So anyway, job well done.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Carl pretty much said what I was going to say, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Another thing was in the paper tonight with the career awards and recognition. I thought that was very good to see those students getting recognition. So, thank you.
I believe the Buildings Trades Home is going to have an open house on Thursday,
Nope.
so just a little heads up. I think it's from 3 to 5.
After school. That's on, Mr. Bandy's saying yes, 3 to 5 on
I gotta get
Thursday.
up for the cheese tray, so yeah.
Okay. Cheese tray. Okay.
I'm not for sure if that's to feed the boys or people to come look at the house, but
Probably
yes,
both.
if it'll be open.
Okay. Great, thank you for bringing that up.
Yep.
Any other board comments or questions about any of the reports that we've gotten from various?
I have one note I thought was worthwhile mentioning, in Mr. Vortex or Mr. Scholl's, or I assume that they both focus area 3, when we talked about human family. And so I thought that was nice to see that we were able to make that experience positive and bring those kids back.
Right.
Good one with our goal, doesn't it?
Okay. Any other questions or other things you had that you wanted to mention?
In Mr. Bandy's report, I highlighted for graduation. Has that always been the dress code and,
Yes.
yes, okay.
Have you made any changes this year from last year or years past? Is it the same?
For the most part, yes,
No,
it's all been the
definitely.
same. Open-toe shoes are fine. Flip-flops is the one thing that's not. We try to stay with the dress pant or slacks or dress.
If a student would have struggle with not
We're willing to
having
help.
that,
We can
you've
find
got
if somebody.
resources
and
to help?
That's basically offered in our meeting that we have with our seniors, so it'll be on Friday. So if somebody was needing anything, we can get it and/or we'll get it for them.
Okay. Any other questions? Or announcements? Nope.
I had a question from the elementary. I don't know if this is for the elementary principals or staff. Under number 1, it says readjusted wing groups, and that's a continuous work. I was just wondering, how often are those wing groups readjusted?
About every 3 weeks. So a lot of times, because they're based off of the priority standards, so look at that every 3 weeks as they take their assessments. It could be 2 weeks depending on when they take their we would call it their Wonders assessment. So they'll look at that, see how kids are progressing, and then they'll redistribute kids based off of how kids perform on certain assessments.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, I think we're going to move on to the next item, which are the action items. Under A, we've got board priority number 1, student achievement. The first thing is consider personnel contracts and resignations. Do you want to start with resignations or with contracts?
Sure, we have a resignation from Sandy Fribley, the middle school careers family consumer science teacher. And we also have an addition of one that I believe was sent out later, Laura Brahm, high school Spanish. So both of those teachers have submitted resignations in a timely manner. So my recommendation is to approve them and wish them luck in their next adventure.
I move we approve.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions? If not, would you read the question?
This motion to accept the resignation of Sandy Fribley and the retirement of Laura Brem effective at the end of the 2018-2019 school year.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Then we'll move on to contracts.
We have several contracts in your packet, plus one we added after I sent the packet out. So we have a recommendation to hire Christopher Copeland for high school band, instrumental music. We have a recommendation to hire Haley Vanderpool for an elementary school counselor position. There's a recommendation in your packet to hire Sarah McLaughlin as the elementary head principal. A recommendation to hire Bart Elliott as a middle school PE teacher, and Mackenzie Kaufman as head girls swim coach. I don't know if you want to take those all together or separate.
Historically done separately, but we can put them together if you like.
I think we should do them separately as we normally do.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll start with Christopher Copeland, high school instrumental music.
I will move we approve the recommendation to hire Christopher Copeland for high school music band.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
I did get some feedback from individuals in the community that they weren't happy with the selection. Just from the sheer fact that it has to stem with marching band experience. So I just left it as that, but very rarely do I get emails from people, and I had several.
Today, I started having retractions of those emails that had been sent to me, that they said,
Well, I
Wait a
had
minute.
one, but the point that I think that's valid is, did we have any parents sit on with the hiring committee?
Mr. Bandy, did you have
Like
parents
a
sit in?
band booster or
There was
somebody?
a band booster that got to talk with each individual and gave the tour.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I just raising that concern, and I understand with Rusty Raymond, he has the marching band experience. But my concern is what happens if Rusty were to get a job somewhere else, and we'd have to hire somebody that really didn't have any marching band experience? We'd be,
I think, Mr. Bandy, how much marching band experience does Mr. Copeland have?
Talking with Mr. Copeland, there's 8 years of experience, 9 more being in a marching band. He had 6 years of jazz experience
Right.
and 10 years being a participant. Also, with the jazz part of it, his thesis as a master's was about jazz instruction
right.
and the data that goes with it, which is part of knowing which instructional strategies work best.
Right, and I don't disagree, I think he's gonna be a great hire for jazz and some of those others, but the concern that the person had for me is, we're getting somebody that's from like West Bend, or, well, I don't know what class they
West
are.
Branch.
Branch.
West Branch?
He was at Linville Sully, he was at West Branch.
Right.
He also did UNI.
Right, which is all smaller districts. The person that was trying to say, hey, let's try to find somebody that has some experience in our level. And it's hard to do, I understand that. I'm just telling you the concerns of the person. So I just, that's all I want to say.
Okay. Other comments or questions?
Yeah, I do. The first thing I want to say is that I haven't heard a single negative thing about Mr. Copeland, and I would not want any of our comments today, were he to be our hire, for him to think, oh, they don't want me here, or anything like that. I've never heard anything but a positive thing about Mr. Copeland, and I think that it's important to say. I'm going to be a no, and it is because of those marching band and some other experience issues. I think that Craig's point is extremely valid. What if Rusty got a job somewhere else, or what if he, family issues or whatever. And I think that there was a more experienced candidate that I think the job should have been offered to. And so I have to listen to the concerns of the people that I spoke to, and some of them certainly were retracted. But for that reason, I'm a no. But that in no way reflects badly on Mr. Copeland.
Okay.
I had some feedback from a couple of coworkers, and it appeared to me throughout the conversations that the kids were very excited about him, and he apparently gave a lesson or instructed them. And, again, I didn't talk to all the kids or whether, but it seems to me like the kids are on board, and I think that it's exciting that, they're looking forward to it, so.
Okay. All right. Any other comments?
I have a comment. I have a comment not related to Mr. Copeland or anything, but when I looked at our new worksheet, which I really like, I would like to see the years that they were a band instructor at Linville Sully, and I'd like to see the years they were at West Branch, and that goes for any applicant we have, is what year experience what years were they there?
Oh, like the
Oh,
years.
Not number of years, the
Not number
actual
of
date
years,
of
but
the
the
years.
From when to when.
I
Employment
gotcha.
history.
2007 to 2014
Gotcha.
and 14 on, because when I look at resumes, when I hired people, I can very easily trace, oops, this is where we
Gaps,
went.
yeah.
And it's not that difficult to add to our sheet. I like our sheet. So I'd like to see that added.
I concur.
Okay. I looked at the reference information too, and one of the comments on here from the director of UNI Band says if they had an opening, Chris would not be interviewing, so I'm assuming that means they would have hired him at the university, so. Again, I've heard mainly positive. I've gotten some of those, and I've gotten all the retractions as well, so.
Yes.
And I
Not
don't,
all of them are retracted.
No.
No, I have a
But there
couple,
were-
3 that have not, but I've gotten quite a few retractions as well, so. Other comments or questions for Mr. Bandy or for Mrs. Wright?
Yep. As kind of putting, the community involvement and parent involvement, granted that kind of makes everybody go at first, but to me, it was positive that parents
Care.
are paying attention and they truly want what's best for their students. So, I'll go along with that occasionally and thank them for that.
Okay,
I think the communication is key. I always tell people, like, when it comes to, a national or a state election or something, I'll say, well, did you talk to anybody? Did you call anyone? Did you vote? And if the answer is no, I'm like, well, shut up. You didn't do anything. You just
Okay, that wasn't a quote for the paper.
But honestly, I mean, this is great when we have parents and
People that
community
care,
members
I agree.
that I want them to know that this board, we pay attention
Yes.
and that we are responsive, and this is a very, very good thing when the community gets involved.
right.
I'm sure he's well aware, I'm sure he has done his research on our program and our band, and I'm sure he knows he has his work cut out for him. So I guess, going forward, I think we need to support that, and I'm sure Mr. Bandy will anyway. So.
Right, and I don't disagree, and I'm gonna vote yes, but my concern, and that's why I brought it to everybody's attention, that if this ever happens again, then you'll have some heads up, and maybe we do it a little differently. Because anybody that you think is worthy of the job, who am I to say? You're the ones who sat in the interviews, and you know who the other candidates were, so I have no problem with that. I'm just bringing up the concerns of the public, so.
okay. Any other comments, or are we ready to vote? I had a motion and a second a while ago, right? So
Indeed,
would
yep.
you read the question?
It is voted to accept the superintendent's recommendation of the appointment of Christopher Copeland as high school band instructor starting with the 2019-2020 school year at the MA Step 3 salary level $44,139.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right, motion carries. We move to the next one, which is Haley.
Yep, my recommendation to offer a contract to Haley Vanderpool as the elementary school counselor.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve Haley Vanderpool as the school counselor?
I moved.
I'll second.
In a second, okay? Any discussion or questions here?
I simply had a question down in the reference information. Stacy Bandy supervised for 7 years.
I think that's the case, Carl, yes. She worked at the high school in an associate role while she was going through school and such.
That's how that happened,
Yes,
because I
yes.
seen, yeah.
Yes.
Not long after she graduated high school, Carl, she came back as an associate and worked for us
While she went
at
to
the
school.
high school and went to school.
She went to
Okay.
school here, right?
Yep.
I think that's nice.
So you're asking that question because, again, it's a step one, no experience listed on the thing.
Right.
Okay,
And the thing I really liked was the last sentence. Our hiring committee believed our students would be comfortable working with Haley. She is approachable, and we observed this many times. And that's, in my opinion, vitally important for a counselor.
okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, would you read the question?
It is voted to accept the superintendent's recommendation of the appointment of Haley Vanderpool as elementary school counselor starting with the 2019-2020 school year at the MA Step 1 salary level of $41,041.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next one.
You have a recommendation in your packet to hire Sarah McLaughlin as the elementary head principal.
I move the approval of Sarah McLaughlin as elementary head principal.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. A motion and a second. Any comments or questions? You obviously got several sheets of her resume and the process outlined by Mrs. Wright. If there are no questions, I'm going to have you read the question.
It was moved to accept the superintendent's recommendation of the appointment of Sarah McLaughlin as elementary school head principal, starting with the 2019-2020 school year at a salary of $112,500.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next one's Mr. Elliott. Is that
Okay.
right?
I don't have his, but,
I do somewhere.
Mr. Bart Elliott, the recommendation is to offer him a contract for middle school PE.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Thank you. Second, over here, okay. I have a motion and a second. Any questions? If not, would you read the question?
It is moved to accept the superintendent's recommendation of the appointment of Bart Elliott as middle school physical education teacher, starting with the 2019-2020 school year at the BA Step 9 salary level of $47,303.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and the next one we have is head girl swim coach,
Yep,
right?
I have a recommendation, or my recommendation is to hire Mackenzie Kaufman as head girls swim coach.
Motion.
So
So move.
Second.
Second, okay. Any questions? Ms. Kaufman teaches music at the middle school, correct?
Choir.
Choir, that's right.
Choir, sorry.
Okay, okay. If no questions, please read the question.
It is moved to accept the superintendent's recommendation, the appointment of Mackenzie Kaufman as head girls swim coach, starting with the 2019-2020 school year.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, that's all the contracts,
Correct.
correct, for
We're
that,
not
for
missing
that
any, are
section?
we?
Right, we've got
That's
all those. So we'll move on to the next item, which is consider action on employment contract of a probationary administrator.
It is my recommendation to terminate the probationary contract of Amy Bidwell effective at the end of the 2018-2019 school year.
I would move the termination of Amy Bidwell's contract effective the end of this year.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Okay,
So next year, are we doing the same thing, probationary, 1 year probationary?
Everybody's a probationary when they start,
Okay,
yes.
got it.
So, yes.
okay. All right, any other questions? If not, would you read the question?
It is moved to terminate the probationary contract of Amy Bidwell effective at the end of the 2018-2019 school year.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next items, consider approval of salaries for administrators and directors.
So included in your packet is a list of director salary recommendations. I was able to sit down with the negotiations committee, Shelley, Amanda, and Craig, along with Chad, and we discussed salary comparisons of like positions in other districts or the same size as ours. And we also compared increases for the teachers and the non-certified staff to make our recommendations. So do you want me to read through them? Do you want to do them one at a time? Do you want to do it as a group?
Mind doing them as a group.
I said I would do it.
I would.
I think
Chad
that's what we
smiled.
have
We're
done,
gonna
unless
go.
anybody has a big issue with
For
that.
everyone out there, my recommendation, Bill Almond is $70,000. Stacy Bandy, $122,553. Chuck Banks, $91,800. Sherry Barnhart, Technology Director, $84,568. Mike Dursky, Assistant Elementary Principal, $97,114. Clint Gingrich, we did him already. Ryan Parker, $87,317. Mark Schultz did him already. Bill Tolles, Maintenance Foreman, $56,523. Mark Vandermeiden, Associate Operations Director, $52,913.
Yep, good.
Chad Vink, 98. Steph Wilson, 105,570.
Okay,
I move we approve.
A second.
okay, I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
I had a comment about Bill Holman as far as spending. It seems like he spends a lot of money around here.
Every time he comes to me, he wants something.
I'm assuming there's something else you wanted to say besides that.
I think that when Bill wears the hat of maintenance director and transportation director, my opinion was that he was below the salary that he should have been, and this is a step in the right direction, and I hope next year we can do something similar to get him to where, especially when it's a shared position with Twin Cedars, et cetera, that we can continue to help Bill, because I personally, I don't supervise him, I don't evaluate him, but I think he does a pretty nice job, so.
I do, and you're giving him a big head. You're like,
We started off with he spends a lot of money.
That's coming later.
Do you want to comment? That was kind of
we
our
know about that
conversation.
What's that?
That was kind of our conversation in our
Yes.
subcommittee meeting
Yeah.
too, so.
And that's what we discussed, Carl, in the meeting, that it would be steps, so, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
And the other thing I'd like to point out is that Mike Dursky is going to get a raise with his new position. He still gets a raise from what he got last year.
okay.
So the public needs to know that.
I'm very excited about the team that we're building at the middle school. I'm very excited about the team that we're building at the elementary. And I'm
And the one we
past
already
ex-
have
yes,
at the
the
high
one we built last year at the high school. I think we're moving things in a good direction.
Okay. All right, I have a motion and a second. Unless anybody else has any other questions, I'm going to have you read the question.
It is moved to approve the salary increases for administrators and directors as presented.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next items, consider approval of wages for other support employees on the same sheet.
Again, our committee, Shelley, Amanda, and Craig, and Chad and I, again reviewed like positions if they were available, and also considered the raises from other groups, and settled on, again, a 2% increase. So Molly Tabert, sorry, $18.34 an hour. Lisa Walston, $20.57 an hour. Becky Applegate, $19.89. Lisa Brown, $50,025. David Gleason, $57,493. Ryan Howard, $37,393. Angela Pedersen is considered a teacher, so she is getting a $41,750, $1,000 on the teacher salary schedule. Sandy Van Veldhuizen is follows the associate wages, so she will be $13.73. Terry Brom, $22,598. Jackie, I'm gonna Faree, $22,598, and Rebecca Williams, $20,307. They are kitchen managers, the last three. So that is my recommendation for other exempt employees.
I move approval.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any questions anybody has? If not, would you read the question?
It is moved to approve the wage increases for other support employees as presented.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to the next item, under culture, climate, safety, security, we crossed that one off, number 1, so we'll go to number 2, which is consider approval of revisions to the 2018-2019 school calendar.
Well, after the last time that you updated our calendar, we had built in some additional hours, just in case, because of the winter that we were going through. And so I think we're safe. I hope we're safe in not having to call school for snow anymore the rest of the year. So we do have a few additional hours, and it was approached to me requesting if we could have the 3-hour early dismissal on the last day of school. And so I did send an email to the administrators and asked how that would affect their plans, and they all agreed that they could adjust their plans for that. So
It's tough work, but they could do it.
we currently have right now with our makeup days, we have, let's see, did I put that in there? 1,086 and a half, which is 6.5 hours more than we need. So if we have a 3-hour early dismissal on Friday, May 31st, that leaves us with 1,083 and a half hours, which would still give us, if we would have to have a late start or something tomorrow, we would still have plenty of hours, or exceed our required hours from the state. So it's my recommendation to approve a 3-hour early dismissal on the last student day of school, Friday, May 31st, pending no other cancellations or late starts, early outs for the remainder of the year.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Nope. If not, would you read the question?
It was moved to approve a 3-hour early dismissal on the last student day of school, Friday, May 31, 2019, pending no other cancellations or late starts, early outs for the remainder of the school.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on, now we're to category number 3 here, facilities and finances, right? So consider approval of minutes, financials, and abstract of claims. Any questions? Well, let's start with minutes. Any questions on minutes? Hearing none, we'll move on to financials. Chad, do you want to give a brief comment on financials for the month?
Obviously, the biggest notable is property tax revenues. You'll see that obviously in the general fund, the management fund, and the PEPA fund. And getting a head start on perhaps Carl's comment that with the additional property tax revenues, that does push us over $10 million for all funds, which is a good position to be in. But otherwise, still making progress on the nutrition fund as well. We started seeing a little bit more of those expenditures come through, but still seeing gains in our balance overall.
Okay. Carl, would you like to read yeah, he said $10 million, but would you?
He did it.
He did it? All right. I'm like, usually you read
I
exactly.
would like to point out that the nutrition fund balance is down to $23,000, but it is still a positive.
It is a positive one, yeah.
And the exact number is we have $10,182,447.
Thank you.
$28.
Okay,
Pretty healthy.
okay.
So I have a comment.
Yep.
We talk a lot about the nutrition fund, which is nice to see. I don't know who manages or tries to keep track of the activity fund, but that's, I don't know how that tracks, but that's a pretty large fund. So I don't know if that's normal or, but it seems like it's taken care of.
Yeah, it is extremely steady, and Ryan does, that's one of his best skills, certainly. You don't always get that out of an activities director, but he definitely has it as far as keeping track of individual funds on the athletic and activity side, and it's always a
Monitors
constant.
that monthly,
He does.
daily, probably.
It's nice though. I mean, that's a big balance for an
Yep.
activity fund.
Yep, he does a good job with it.
Okay. Other comments on financials? If not, how about your abstract of claims?
I sent an email Sunday or Monday with some, and I never got a response to that. I don't know why.
I apologize.
Yeah.
We,
I
I
would
can
just like to
remember.
have an explanation for it sometime.
Yeah, we'll get it to you, absolutely.
I had a couple of questions. I noticed a couple things in here for special ed printer toner. Is the special ed printer toner on a different fund, or I assumed everybody used the same printer?
no.
How's that work?
Some teachers have printers in their classrooms for IEPs and things, so the special ed department has printers. So they
Okay.
would buy toner out of the special ed funds.
Okay.
They also have access to the copy machines, just like everybody else does.
I did have a question throughout the abstracts. There's homeschool assistance program expenditures, and I know in years past that kind of was not monitored. Are we monitoring that this year, and is that staying within the budget that we established?
We absolutely are. Molly and I meet monthly regarding the homeschool budget, and I meet with Angela probably every other month. We're scheduled to meet again this month, and so her and I discuss what their needs are and where they're at budget-wise. And we're gonna come in under budget with that one, which we need to because we're digging our way out of the hole, remember?
Yeah.
So I will
We
give you an
remember.
update on that
Yeah.
one, probably in July like I did the year before. I'll give you an
As long as-
update
as
on
long
where
as
we're
it's
at.
being- As long as it's being monitored.
It is being monitored monthly, and I approve all purchases before they're made. So I know what's going out, I mean, what she's asking for, so.
Good.
Okay,
I had one bill, I've actually already asked him, but the Ronson Mechanical, we had two big bills with them, chiller and heat pump, and it ended up being a big bill, so I just, if you tell everybody what that was.
Yeah, the chiller had two issues. There was crack line on the freon side of the stage 1 pump, and stage 2 pump also had a leak on it. We lost 350 some pounds of freon. So that was a bad thing, but it happened at a good time. It was had cool weather and rain, so the classrooms did not get very hot. So we got it up fixed and running. That's something we need to look at as a replacement at some point. That's 13, 14 years old. It's getting to its life expectancy. I know that's not what you want to hear, but that's what the reality.
What were you saying, Carl?
Put it on the 5-year plan.
As soon as it's something else.
does the breakdown insurance cover any of that kind of stuff as well?
Yes.
Or
some
whatever
of
it's
it
called, I
does.
might not be calling it the right thing.
Breakdown
Okay.
It doesn't cover HVAC stuff.
Okay,
Yeah,
Some
it's,
things it covers, it's just how you word it.
yeah, it's
Okay.
the environmental controls
Yes.
that it covers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
okay, thank you.
The controls, but not what it's controlling essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
There's kind of a gray
Yeah,
area
it
there.
is.
Okay,
How about the heat pump?
Heat pump, does it say which?
It says, heat pump repair, $4,290.
Elementary and closet. Yes.
So
In the closet.
Derek, there's a, in the pump by the stage on the right-hand side, in the janitors, up in the top is where that heat pump is, and so they had to replace that.
It died, it had to be replaced.
Yes, and there's no parts to be found for it.
Okay.
When they installed those, there's no more. So we had to get a totally different unit.
Okay.
okay. Any other questions? If not, I'd be looking for a motion. Oh,
I
did you have
didn't
one?
necessarily have a question, but more of a comment. On page 21, under the local option tax fund, the city, the topographical survey for the new, says YMCA.
We're gonna change that to EC, RC.
Early Childhood and Recreation Center?
Okay. I was just, you know, you
Yes,
just
it's
call
the,
it one,
yep, it's the Early
Be
one
Childhood
name,
Rec
so
Center.
it's all,
Okay,
That is our 37% of that survey for that.
ECRC is.
Early
yeah.
Childhood Rec Center. Well, that's the one Chad and I made up. Tonight.
that's what we'll see in our abbreviated place that in
Right.
here in the future. Okay,
We are also tracking that, as this is the first bill that's come in for that, so Molly started a separate sheet to be able to
Track
review
it.
that monthly for us,
okay,
so we make sure we stay within our budget.
okay. All right, any other questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Would you read the question?
Is moved to approve the minutes, financials, and abstract of claims as presented.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next item under facility finances, number 2, is consider the extension of food service director contract with the Pella Community School District.
So the next several items are extending our current contracts of sharing agreements that we have with other districts. And the first one is to consider the food service director sharing with Pella. We do receive, I'm going to look at Chad, do we receive for food service?
No,
No.
No, okay, so it's just the rest of them.
correct.
This is a 50-50 sharing agreement with Pella. The current school year that we're in was the first year of that arrangement. It's my recommendation to extend that another year, 1 year only, and because we would eventually like to get back to a spot where we could have our own. But right now, we feel like it's in our best interest to continue the sharing another year.
Okay. So other than date and extending year, there's nothing different
There's
in
nothing
the-
different than the
in
current
this
contract.
So I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions that,
I had a comment on the agreement, and I certainly agree with Mrs. Wright that it's a one-year extension, but item 3 says this agreement shall automatically renew for an additional year until either party shall notify the other in writing by March 1 of any year they desire to terminate the agreement on the next June 30th. So,
Yep, and Mr. Ebling and I talked in February about whether to extend it or not, because I knew that that deadline was in there.
yeah,
So,
I mean, just so the board's aware.
okay?
so we will be notifying before March 1st if we determine to not go forward with it next year. But this year, I just felt like it was really too soon to make a good call on how it was going, so Chad and I visited, and then Greg and I visited, and we decided to extend it another year.
Okay. Okay, I have the motion and the second. Any other comments or questions? If not, would you read the question?
It is moved to approve the
Too
sharing
short.
agreement with the Pella Community School District for food service director services as presented.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next on those sharing agreements, we have considered extension of the contracts with Twin Cedars Community School District.
So we do receive sharing dollars, funding from the state for this sharing agreement, but it is for both transportation and maintenance with Twin Cedars, and so we hold the contract, and we do bill Twin Cedars for their portion of it, as well as get in money from the state for the arrangement. So I have not heard any complaints about the arrangement, so it's our recommendation to continue.
Okay,
I move we approve.
thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay. All right, so if I have a motion and a second, any other questions? If
This
not,
is for,
Yep.
this is for both maintenance, the motion is
Two
for both
positions,
maintenance
for
and
both of them.
transportation.
both of them. Okay, would you read the question?
It was moved to approve the sharing agreements with Twin Cedars Community School District for transportation and maintenance management services as presented.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next item is consider extension of contract with Eddyville Community School District.
We share Lisa Wellston with Eddyville for human resources management, and it's an 80-20 split. Again, we hold the contract and bill Eddyville for her time that she does spend helping them with human resources type topics. We've had good success with that sharing agreement, so once again, we have no reason to not continue.
And this one, we do get sharing dollars
We do
for
get
as well?
sharing dollars for this
Okay.
as well. So it's, as long as it's working for us, I think we need to continue to do it.
Okay. Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second from Carl? Any other questions on this one? If not, would you read the question?
It was moved to approve the agreement with Eddyville Blakesburg Fremont Community School District for human resources management sharing as presented.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next is the consider approval of the agreement of service with Timberline Billing Service.
We use Timberline Billing Service to help us with our Medicaid billing in special education. And so they're pretty much statewide, working with a lot of different schools in the state. I don't know that there's another service, but it's my recommendation to continue using Timberline, again, to help us with Medicaid billing for services that qualify.
Okay? And no, there's no changes to the contract from the previous,
Correct, just date
previous
changes.
one, just date
It's just
changes?
yep,
Okay.
an extension.
Okay?
Did I understand they're 8% this year, and last year they were 6?
They- Yeah, well, there's 6% and then 2%, and we've done the additional 2% for, probably for about the last well, certainly this last contract, which was 3 years, maybe even been before that. I think our first contract with them was the 6, but then this 2% is additional services that they're providing. I think that bridge the gap between, getting teachers and nurses and so on to complete, it's either they're completing certain information for Medicaid or we're having Timberline do it, and it was much more efficient for us to have Timberline do it, so we went with the 8%. I believe that's what it reflects. So I
Okay.
thought I saw the 8% somewhere in there.
And the agreement is for another, this is a 3-year agreement, right? Okay.
I
Any,
move we approve.
thank you.
Second.
Any other,
Has our billing for Medicaid improved this year? Because I know last year it was,
Yeah, paltry compared to, yeah.
well, I was trying to
previous
find
years.
a nice way to say that. but
Oh,
yeah, right, it
yes.
was
Well, I
not
mean,
good.
comparatively, it was not good.
Minimally,
Yeah, not as much as we would have liked,
Okay.
certainly. I think it has improved over last year.
but not significantly.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? If not, would you read the question?
It is moved to approve the agreement of service with Timberline Billing Service LLC as presented.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next is number 6 on our agenda, consider the purchase of a commercial mower.
Once again, Bill is trying to spend our money. The Facilities Planning Committee has met and discussed this large mower, commercial mower, and the benefits of having it in our large spaces that we mow and the amount of time that it will save us to use this large mower. So Bill did go out and get quotes and looked at the state bid. And so it is our recommendation that the board use the state bid to purchase a John Deere 1600 Turbo Series 3 commercial wide area mower at a cost not to exceed $55,747.23, which is the state bid.
Okay?
And if you want details about the size of the mower, Bill will have to
Talk
tell
to
us.
Bill.
So, but the
But it's a big
The
one.
committee
The
talked about it.
committee's talked about
yeah,
it.
And we had bids, we had more than one bid, so
Okay.
this was the lowest bid.
Okay. Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So
Thank you. About a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other questions that people had? The fund that this will be paid out of is,
I'm going to abstain because I don't own the John Deere store or anything like that, but I'm going to abstain. But for the last, as long as the elementary school's been out in my neighborhood, I've watched 2 or 3 maintenance men mow 11 acres with a 60-inch mower deck, and we're doing that all over the place. And we will pay for this mower with savings in labor, and it's not that the people, that the custodians, the maintenance people don't have something else to do. We have plenty of other things to do. So this mower is gonna have a
Time saver.
payout in labor savings, and I'm not exactly sure the specifications, but it mows 10 feet. So and it mows very rapidly. So it is, as Mrs. Wright said, it is a big mower, and but it's something I've wanted to do for years to save employee time.
Shelley asked which fund it was coming out of, and without looking at the plan, I can't tell you. It's
Okay.
either PEPAL or sales tax.
glad you're confident that.
But we have it
We've
all
got a
planned
good
out
balance.
as to
Okay.
which fund
All right,
it
that's
comes
really what
out
I
of.
wanted to know. Okay.
I don't want to tell you the wrong one.
Okay,
It's not general fund.
Yeah, no.
I assumed it was not, but I figured I needed to ask, so. Okay, so I have the motion and the second, and we know Carl's planning to abstain, so would you read the question?
It is moved to approve purchase of a John Deere 1600 Turbo Series 3 commercial wide area mower using state of Iowa bid at a cost not to exceed $55,747.23.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and Carl abstained. Okay, moving on. Next item is board priority number 4, professional learning, and we're to policies, right? So the first item is consider the final reading of our revised board policy series 400.
So we had the first reading last month. You had all those changes and a summary from me. I have received no comments or no recommended changes from any of you. So my recommendation is to approve those changes as a final reading.
Second reading.
I'm on that committee, and I move approval.
Okay,
I second.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Anybody have any questions? Okay, if not, would you read the question?
There's a move to approve for the second and final reading, revised board policy series 400, staff personnel as presented and amended.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we'll move on to the next section of policies. So consider the first reading of board policies 500 to 503.
So because our policy committee, Sharma, Lynette, and Carl has just been so busy and on the ball, they have completed the 500s, and I found some time, a couple evenings, to start updating them for you. And you can see before this board packet went out, I got through the 500s to the 503s. And so you got the first part as a first reading. There is a summary as the first page of every section, and then the policies the changes were in red if you printed it out or looked online. So again, these were reviewed by the policy committee, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions. There were several new policies added. Nothing was hugely changed, but some, updates. I don't know if you want me to go through everyone, or if you just want to ask questions. Okay.
I had a comment just for the board members who are not on the policy committee that 501.11R1 deals with senior high open campus.
Yes.
And
That's the one I
every
was at.
year, we talk about no grade report lower than a C- at midterm or trimester. And that was not changed, and we've left it the same. So I point that out only because whenever this comes up, we discuss whether that's high enough, so.
And so, just to match things up, 501.11 in board policy stated that only grade 12 would be released during the day. And then 501.11R1, which is the regulation, said juniors and seniors. So the two policies conflicted with each other. The committee at the high school has been working on that, and their recommendation is to go with seniors only. And so you'll notice that change. The other change in that regulation, 501.11R1, because just, again, transparency, we had a lot of discussion about school times at the secondary campus, and most of the kids are already at school by 8 o'clock for the most part, and so we are upping the start time at the middle school and the high school to be 8:10 to allow them to have a homeroom exploratory, I don't know what you're calling it, if you're calling it homeroom, but that gives them time to have homeroom, is what I know it as. I'm old school, I
Advisory,
know.
is it advisory at the high school?
Yeah, so it gives them 10 extra minutes in order to have that time. So that is a change in that one.
All buildings are 8:10.
All buildings next year will be 8:10 as is an official start time.
I have several, but since we're, things that I wanted to talk about, but since we're on the 501.11R, for the open campus, the qualifications, one of the things mentioned was no more than 5 excused absences. I can't see what on earth that has anything to do with anything if they are excused absences and there's a legitimate reason for the kid to be gone. You're punishing the kids because they're sick. You're punishing the kids because they had some other opportunity to go do something extracurricular, whatever. Excused is excused. I can't see any rationale for that. Unexcused, totally different story. Excused.
I didn't have any recommended changes to the policy, so Mr. Bandy, do you want to reference that?
More than 5
It says no excessive absenteeism, which is more than 5, so it goes to that 6 absence thing that we talked about. When we were talking about attendance, we weren't talking about this policy.
That was basically when we were talking or discussing that if a student went over, like on the 6th absence would be into the verified or whatever. So we've been changing or talking and communicating with that. That would be part of where that falls into.
So do we need to revisit that paragraph maybe and have further conversations
Yes.
before we recommend a final reading?
I think we could go ahead and discuss that.
Okay.
Good question. Okay. Any other ones on that policy, or I heard you say you had other ones you wanted to
Well,
ask about?
It's all obviously in the 500s, but that was the only one on the 50111R.
How about the 501s, the whole series? Anything else in the 501s?
No.
Okay, let's move on to the 502s. Anything in the 502s?
Still trying.
Sorry.
That's all right. Still trying to
pictures,
get
it's
there.
red.
Yeah. I'm fine with what's on here, but I just wondered about the process on the freedom of expression one. If you had pulled this from other things, or if you guys had.
That is
had-
the recommended change from IASB.
Thank you. That's what I wanted. Okay.
Anything else in the 502s?
Yeah, I got
Okay.
On the 5023, I think that as far as the ending of the word of the superintendent on as far as the walk in or walk out, that type of thing, will make a policy, and I think that's appropriate. But I also think that boards come and go, and we hope this superintendent stays for a long time, but superintendents do eventually come and go, and I think that that's something that the superintendent should bring that policy before the board for review, because things could change, and that's something the board would want to hear about.
Do you want it added to the annual review?
Yeah,
Or
to
do
the
you?
end, yeah, to the end of the.
Or every
super-
5 years is, or is this one you want
Boards
me to
have to
add?
review policies at least once every 5 years.
Okay.
The whole set.
Which is
of
why
them.
we're on the 500s.
Yeah, I know. I think I could be all right with every
With the
5
5 years?
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Okay.
That I think it's something that should be brought.
Okay.
Anything else in the 502s?
There was some verbiage actually in the intro in 500 and in the 5026, 5027 that said, basically talking about the welfare and the power is not really the right word, but the responsibility of the school to make sure of a safe learning environment, et cetera, all the, which is very important stuff, but of where their jurisdiction ends. And there was a kind of a catch-all phrase in many of those that says, while away from school grounds, that the misconduct will directly affect the good order, efficient management, and welfare of the school district. And that's found several times, that exact phrase.
Which
Can you give me
policy
one?
are you
Yeah, give me
on? Yeah.
your first example.
That is in, it's in the introductory in the Series 500, and then it is in 502.7 and 502.8. I got one here, I highlighted if you want to see it, it'd be easier for you.
Okay.
This one right here. So like on 5027, that's at the end of the first paragraph.
Yes. And I'd like an explanation of what exactly that means, because I found it confusing.
Okay, so maybe Mr. Bandy can do a better job than I can. So, Mr. Bandy, this is, sorry, putting you on the spot, smoking, drinking, and drugs. And it's the last sentence. And while away from school grounds, if the misconduct will directly affect the good order, efficient management, and welfare of the school district. We see this sometimes more when a fight, I'm not thinking of an example with smoking, drinking, and drugs, but let's say a fight occurs outside of school hours somewhere down at skate park or whatever, and then it comes into school and causes a problem because they're still fighting, or there's things going on that causes a disruption in school, that this sentence gives the school the authority to take action, again, if it causes a disruption in the school. So I'm trying to think of an example for drugs, but like if
Well,
you've got
if
Send
the
them
kids,
off campus and
vaping,
walk
let's
into
say
the
they're
district.
vaping outside the school somewhere else, but they come
Across the
on,
street.
and one of the first things they do is they'll split it up. Or maybe the jewel will be with one place and the contents somewhere else. And there may be a fight, there may be, hey, you've got my stuff. That comes into play.
Yeah, well, the examples that you're giving, I really don't enjoy being a pain, I just am one.
Are you sure?
another
Mostly.
quote, another quote.
But what I'm saying is, I'm certainly not trying to defend kids smoking or doing drugs or anything like that off of school grounds, but I think we're putting ourselves on shaky legal ground if we're saying it's out there, where it honestly should be law enforcement's issue, not ours. It hasn't turned a fight that came on into a fight in here. I
Oh,
like
well,
the
then
fight
we
a
do
lot
not
better.
have jurisdiction,
Well, and
because
that-
again, it has to affect the good order,
But
and
while
efficient.
away from school grounds, that,
Well,
but it has to.
I had that all highlighted, and it took me a little while to sift and sort through it. But the other day, I came to one of our meetings, that we had many of, committees or whatever, and I was going south on Third, right across from the entrance to the office.
okay,
And there was 3 people over there, students, obviously, well, I think they were students, and they were smoking. And that's how close non-school property is. So if something would happen there, they could very easily fall over into the school very easily. And that's how I came to the conclusion I didn't have a problem with that statement. But I also agree that common sense has to prevail, and if it's downtown and the Oskaloosa police are called, it's out of our jurisdiction.
It is, and we approach it that way unless it comes into school and causes a problem. And then we are involved because it's causing a problem. It
No,
is
absolutely,
affecting the
if it
good
comes into
order,
school,
yeah.
yeah.
So you're
But I
just,
mean, across
you're trying to
Third
preserve
is-
that you can do something when and if that,
If it comes into school and causes a disruption.
even if it happened outside of.
Maybe, I'd like to, maybe, since it wasn't saying what I thought it would say, I don't have a change in verbiage, but maybe something that kind of could, a little bit of a change in the sentence structure, so it's saying more what you meant, what we all meant for it to mean versus what it did mean.
I worry about not having the sentence,
Yeah.
that it's an easy way for school employees to throw up their hands and say, we don't have to do anything because it happened off-site, when sometimes we do have to do something, because it's affecting the good order or the conduct, something is being affected within the school.
But it's still, the verbiage could still be addressed before the second reading.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I've got
Okay.
it marked here, so.
Okay,
Yeah, so I think that the concept of what you're saying versus the concept of what I read were 2 entirely different things. And it's
So
just
we
a
just
matter
need
of,
to
I'm not
clean it
against
up.
what you're saying, it's just a matter of tightening it up a little bit. And then,
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking about, when are these for instances or whatever, while away from school grounds, if the misconduct will directly affect the good order. We'll say a kid is smoking pot in
Selling
his
drugs.
bedroom
Well, yeah,
before
there's selling-
school and he comes to school high.
But now he's in the school.
Right, well, right, but he
So it
did
is our
it
problem
off the
he's
school
here.
grounds, and he didn't do anything in school, but he did something off the school grounds and he came to school high. Or you could be drunk or high or, whatever, so that would apply.
okay. So we're gonna look at
We're gonna
making,
look
Just
at
look
we're
at
gonna
making
look at
it
some
clear.
verbiage in that
Yeah, just
area.
verbiage, I don't have a problem with the
Yeah.
concept.
Yep.
Okay,
Anything else in the 502s? How about the 503s?
had one there also. I did not.
That's okay.
On 503.4,
Okay.
Good conduct.
there was.
So I didn't change anything on that one.
Yeah, of the good conduct rules. I think we need to strike the word immoral out of there.
Okay.
And I'm going to give an example for why I mean this. So you can't be in this if you've been immoral. So moral is a pretty personal, pretty religious-based concept, and we have our rules in the public school of right and wrong. These are our policies, these are our rules. Best example I can think of, I don't know that there's anyone like this, I'm not using a real world example. So somebody comes back and says, oh, how dare you say this? No, I don't know that there is this. But let's say that there is a pregnant debate team member. The pregnancy would not keep that person from debating and being an outstanding debater, but someone could look at that and say, well, you're not married, you had premarital sex, that's immoral, you shouldn't be allowed to be on that. And I don't think the immoral belongs in there at all. It's putting us in a judgment place that we have no place being.
So are you thinking in that, I'm
Just strike
looking at
that word,
Mr.
that's
Bean.
the only word.
Okay. I was
So it says
thinking
the
things like
libertarian.
lying or something like that, where they're not.
Look at that.
That's,
Okay,
I don't
we'll
have
bring
the-
you a suggestion
I don't
or,
have the right word.
change up with that one.
okay.
Okay, any others in the 503s?
I'm just sitting here thinking about your comment. Under high school student, drinking is illegal. Using drugs is illegal.
Smoking is illegal.
Smoking is illegal. And immoral would be your definition of immoral.
Exactly.
The other-
So I want to
are-
figure out how to put
Lying,
in there like
Things like
lying,
that.
cheating. You know, so,
Are those in the
so
handbook?
maybe we need to just clarify that a little bit. Bullying.
I'll let the committee take care of that.
We will work on that. I'll ask for
That's what we got the
suggestions.
committee for,
That's
right?
right. Thank you very much.
Send it back to the
Thank you for
committee.
serving on that one, because I know there is a lot of reading. That's a better, I was like, for some reason, I'm like, there's not a,
I will send out some changes to the committee, and once they say thumbs up, I'll send it to the rest of you.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
okay? All right. Well, after all of that, now I've lost my agenda in all those policies.
We are ready for the tag presentation.
Oh,
We've got
yay,
some tag
all right,
people.
so,
Oh, wait.
we need to action, we need an action, unless you wanna
I
have to
guess we
do it
want a
twice.
first
They can
reading.
still come on down and get ready.
So, yeah, you feel free to do that. So, with our first reading of board policies 500 to 503, do I have a motion to approve with the proposed changes? How about
I
a second?
second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any other, I'm afraid to ask if Eric has any other questions.
No, it was just, I couldn't physically
Oh,
hear
gotcha,
what you said because you were facing the other way, and that
gotcha.
doesn't work for me.
Sorry, I'll try to
I
face
couldn't
this
hear
way.
Could you reread the motion, please? I couldn't hear or couldn't understand.
Sure. There's a vote to approve for the first reading, revised board policies 500 through 503 as presented and amended.
Would amended be what we talked about? Or
Yes,
amended?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
with those, and again, we'll have
With
them again
proposed
to look
changes.
at with the final ones where we can say yay or
If there's
nay.
something we need to change, again, we can put it on
Yeah.
another meeting. It's not a big deal. Just
Okay.
so we get them
Put
done.
everybody on the same page.
Gotcha,
I
okay?
think I'm good.
Next year, we won't wait till June, I promise.
All right, so I'm gonna have him go ahead and read the question.
There's a vote to approve for the first reading, revised board policies 500 through 503 as presented and amended.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we're to the focus on education, the tag presentation.
And this is an informational presentation regarding the TAG program. These ladies and well, I should have said and Steph, these ladies, along with Steph, have been working all year with a tag consultant to review and revise our tag plan.
Oh, is this what this is?
And so this, again, is informational only. They will be bringing it back for approval, but they wanted your feedback. So today is just a discussion,
Okay,
some of the proposals that they're making. And you might have just got a copy of everything that is in here.
it looks
I
like
don't
it.
know.
Yeah, I think so. Quick scan anyway.
So to be clear, the packet that you have is a draft.
Maybe.
Check if you can bring it up on the north television, maybe, on the north television. And maybe swap out. I think the same remote will work. I think so.
Came on. Yeah, what's
Oh, they're
going on
having an
out
award
there?
ceremony
Oh.
tonight, drama, I think. Yay.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, so, I'm Dawn Duffenbaugh, 5'8" tag.
Kim Prendergast, kindergarten through fourth grade tag.
I'm born for high school tag.
So, we asked our tag kids some questions, and here are some of their responses. I thought they were noteworthy. This is not in your packet.
Yeah, it is, they have it.
We
Oh,
got this,
yeah,
we got
we
this
sent
with
you.
our packet, yep.
Yep.
Okay. So just some of their comments on why tag is important and how it has helped students grow. So we tried to get a variety of ages in here.
So just a brief description of what we've done this year. We had a consultant come in, her name is Mary Schmidt, and she's retired. She was a consultant with Heartland AEA. I would describe her as a walking bibliography of all things tag. You can ask her about anything and she immediately can pull up an article and tell you all the experts in that area. She's just been fantastic to work with. We've worked in our PLC time. We've had some extra PD days that we've taken to do that work too. And Steph has been able to come to a lot of our meetings as well. So we first off just wanted to thank Steph for being so present with us and helping us out, and Paula for supporting our work this year. And it's been time well spent. We started all the way at vision, mission, values, started from the ground up and went from there. And a lot of that is in the packet.
I just too want to say, one of the reasons we reached out to Mary was we used to have a tag person in our AEA. She went to a district. So I had spoken with her at the end of last school year to start this process with her. And about 3 weeks later, she took a job in a school district. And so then, and we were it was time for a program review for us. We hadn't done it for quite some time. I can't even remember the number of years. So I had worked with Mary in my time in other districts and knew she was a walking bibliography is a great description. So that's why we chose to work with Mary. We didn't have really another option closer to us. So she's amazing. She really is.
All right, so yeah, if you want to click on the start. So the tool that we used is a lot like, if you're familiar with the SAMI that we've used for MTSS, it's a rubric-based tool. We go through and just rate ourselves on how we're doing right now. So all of the scores we put in there were based on what we were doing before any of our work this year. And this is all, this entire document goes through all the different parts of a tag program. It adheres to Chapter 12 of Iowa Code, and it also goes over best practices that are established in the field of gifted education. So a lot of these things we found, we weren't quite in the acceptable category just because we didn't have written plans for some of those things that we were doing. So that's a big part of what needs to happen.
Right, not that we didn't do it, it's just
Right.
things weren't written down.
Right. And then there's some other ways that we just need to get closer to best practices in the way that we differentiate for gifted learners.
And this scrolls for days.
It
Yep,
just goes on for
uh-huh.
days, so.
Okay, so, like Kim said, we, started this work literally from the ground up. I think we started back in October, and we started with a definition of tag, and that's straight from the Iowa code, just to kind of have that in mind, so we felt like we needed to include, that on there, as well. And then with our vision and mission, we tried to connect it, to the district's vision and mission. Our vision was what we were aspiring to, so what we were hoping to accomplish, and then our mission, kind of what our purpose was. So like I said, we tried to connect it to our district vision and mission. A couple of things we wanted to make sure we included in there were like challenging opportunities for our students, that ongoing learning, and then embedded not just in the TAG classroom, but throughout the school day. That was something that was really important to us, that we didn't want it to be like, oh, they're TAG kids, so you are gonna do that, and I don't have to worry about it. We wanted it to be like throughout the school day and every school day. And then within our mission, we wanted to provide that challenging and appropriate learning opportunities to our students, just because we felt that, you know, we do that for our gen ed kids, so let's do it. Maybe it's a little bit more work for those tag kids, but let's do that. Let's create those opportunities for them and meet them where they are. So looking at their unique abilities, and then all those social, emotional, and academic needs, whatever those may be. And then after that, we went and kind of broke down beliefs and commitments to action. So looking back on our notes, I think when we started this, the three of us just kind of broke down, here's kind of what I think, here's what my belief is, whatever. And looking back at our notes this afternoon, I looked that we had 12 of those between the three of us, and we're like, that's kind of huge. So then at the bottom of that page, we kind of referenced something that we used, and so we talked about Karen Rogers' lessons learned about educating the gifted and talented a lot, and we kind of came back to that. So we took those 12 kind of beliefs that we had and broke them down into, well, where do they fit in the ones she had listed, and then where do we want that for our district, and that kind of thing, and then just kind of bullet pointed underneath that, well, how are we going to do that? How are we going to commit to those beliefs? So just kind of broke that down and got it down to, you know, the 6 you see here. But that was, you know, a couple meetings worth of work just in doing that. So you can read through those. And then after that, we then moved into our program goals. So we looked at the formatting of other schools nearby and not nearby to look at how they framed those, and just kind of went through again and, well, what do we like, what do we dislike? So some of them, it was just too much information. They had them on the school website, that was great, and we understood it, but we're like, would a, like, you know, non-tag person understand that? And then like Dawn said, this is a draft, so we've got some thoughts and things here in our program goals, and then in parentheses, but just, you know, removing some of that teacher jargon and putting it in, you know, lay language that we could put it on the website, and parents, whomever, community members could explain it or understand it. So we had each of our program goals, we broke those down into 2 that you can see here. Then under each goal we had indicators. So those were just going to be what we were going to create, or how we were going to show that we've met those program goals. And so those will be things that we can go back and revisit and then revamp often as needed. So this being kind of a draft, there are some of our thoughts about what we need to do for that. And some of these things are things that are on our to-do list. So like the PEPs with the personalized education plans, getting up a program website up to date. We've got our identification plan kind of in the works, things like that. And then below the indicators, we had our measurement plan. So again, what will we use or do to measure those indicators, and those kind of being set up either in the whole document here with program goals to indicators to measurement plan kind of being a domino effect. That, okay, well, here's our big goal, let's break it down. And then in doing those things, it'll be kind of a domino that we accomplish a lot of those things on the start, because now we have it in writing. And so, yeah, we just broke it down into our program goals, and again, tried to tie those back to our vision and mission, because we wanted everything to tie together.
So, how does TAG fit in with MTSS? We've had a lot of discussion about this, and it for sure fits in. So, we're used to seeing the triangle. Core 1, everybody receives Core 1. Tier 2, supplemental, but then the triangle that most often we're used to seeing are SPED kids at the end. The SPED kids get that additional extra, but it goes both ways. So everybody gets the core, some people get this, select people get the intensive program. That's for highly individualized, can be highly individualized for TAG or special ed. It goes both ways. So when last time we talked about MTSS, people are thinking, oh, how do we help kids? Well, our TAG kids are identified kids who have needs as well, and they need to be served. So, and here's a different model that we came up with. When we, the MTSS group with Steph that we've been working on, this is one of the things that we, another visual that we use. So everybody does the green, some get the yellow, a few get the red. Okay, so that's how that fits in. That's best practice for those kids.
So if you just bounce around a little bit. So those are the things that you just looked at. So some of the things we looked at, like, were our vision and mission, beliefs and commitments to action, our program goals. And then one of the things that we kept coming back to this year throughout a lot of our work was just, where is our current reality? So like Steph said, we're not sure when the last time we had a program kind of reval or an evaluation. And so where are we at currently, and like how can we get there? And so we had this big giant broad idea, and we're like, okay, let's scale that back, and what can we do right now? So those are also some of the things that we've talked about, either that we are doing and working on now and are looking forward to doing in the future. So our identification, practice, and procedures, we've got that pretty well down. So I was moved into this position this year, and I've really liked the work that we've done, because it was a temporary one-year thing, and I feel so much better about giving that to whoever takes over the high school position, because it was kind of like, well, what do we do with this? Well, at the middle school they do this, and at the elementary they do this, at the high school we do this, and it's kind of all over the place, whereas now with this document, we can just pass that on to somebody. If the community wanted to see it, you know, they could see it, and it's there in black and white. And we're hoping that that identification practice, those procedures, that paperwork, all of that will travel from school to school with the students, so that we can see, oh, okay, well, here's what they qualified for in second grade and into fifth and into seventh, eighth, and beyond. And then one of the things we want to do going forward, and we've kind of talked about already with parents and teachers, is just that communication piece of making sure they are aware, and so we've done a lot of that work as well.
So the one thing we did not have was we did not have a K-12 spectrum of services. Like she said, it was kind of broken. Elementary does this, middle school does this, high school does this, but it wasn't continuous. We wanted something where you could see from kindergarten through grade 12 where these kids go and what happens to them. So that's what we have designed here. And one thing that we found when we were doing this, right now, we're focusing on math and reading for identification. Science and social studies is also very important, and we're going to tackle that, I believe, next year. But as far as right now, with all the work we did, we just felt that we were not comfortable with that at this point. So we changed our identification process. We have some different things in there. We discussed, you know, what services look like at those levels. So, and that's all in your packet for you to look at. But that was one thing we did not have. So even as a teacher, if I wanted to say, okay, I'm in elementary school, what does this look like for this student when they get into 10th grade? I didn't even know. So, I mean, there was a lot of work that had to be done. And we've had quite a bit of turnaround in these positions, and this is only my 4th year, and I was just kind of doing what was done before to keep my head above water with all the change in staff. So this is really good that we had this opportunity to do this work.
And like she said, I think it was just really nice to be able to see like, okay, I'm at the high school and so I'm kind of like the end, but what are they doing before that? And being able to see that and kind of make sure we have that transparency and correlation between them.
There's also other areas other than academic areas to identify kids and we didn't even touch that yet. I mean, it's
I
just,
wondered
we
about
just
that.
did not have time this year to think through all of that. So they know that's an area of need. We've talked about that area of need. It's just, again, we're not done.
All right, so one of the things that came up a lot, I think, in our admin meetings and with us as well, is just making sure that there's a clear communication of how kids are identified for talented and gifted services. So you have got, the bulk of that packet that you have is all of the documents that go along with that process. So we wanted to make sure we provided everything to you that you could possibly want to see. So those are all in there. Dawn did a fantastic job in past years of making sure that we had both quantitative and qualitative data, and that goes along with Chapter 12 of Iowa Code. And we just did a little bit of tweaking to how that is put together and how those decisions are made this year. So some tools that we use are the COGAT, which is Cognitive Abilities Test, and that is something that can be used grades K through 12. We also use the SLOSSN, which is an IQ test, and we use our FAST data that the district provides. So in your packet there, you've got a sheet that looks like this for every grade level, every program that we're looking at. One of the big changes is that we're identifying now based on specific ability in math and language arts. So in the past, it would just be, for example, 3rd grade was just 3rd grade tag. And you were either in 3rd grade tag or not in 3rd grade tag. But now kids are going to be served more specifically on their abilities in those specific areas, which aligns nicely from elementary up to high school.
And got all of those. 24 pages.
Another change that we made was that all of this is going to be brought back to a committee, so that would be our TAG PLC. So those identification decisions will be made as a group.
And so then, kind of like I said, one of the things we wanted to do was just make sure that we are communicating with teachers and our parents. So we just, again, we didn't have things in writing. And we're like, okay, well, we do that, but it was different from building to building. And so we just created some referral forms, whether that's from the teacher end of things that they can fill out and say, you know, I'm referring this student because of these things, and kind of gave them some checklists, some things to answer, and then did the same for parents as well. So if a parent's like, you know, I think my child qualifies, well, here's what I've noticed, and then they can bring those. And so again, we did that through K-12. And did that, and one of the things we also talked about was having kids self-identify or peer identify, and just kind of, we didn't have anything for that, but we talked about it. You know, they kind of know, we kind of talked about at the elementary that they might suggest like, oh, well, my friend needs to be in tag just because I have a lot of fun in tag, and so I want them to come have fun too. And so I would talk about like making it, you know, kind of grade specific for those different levels. And then these were just some of those rating scales, again, we all have.
So we obviously have more things to work on, so we're, at the end of the year, we have some work days. We're gonna do some work then, but then the work needs to be continued next year too.
And then this was a letter we put together to, you know, send out to families and parents to say your child's been recommended, here's why, here's what this means. Because again, it's kind of something different of something formal at some levels and informal at others. And then just the side of things. So then, like I said, these are just some of the things that we want to work on going forward. It's just some of those PEPs, so those personalized education plans that will follow the students from school to school. So we can see, here's what they've done, almost like an IEP, but just kind of the other end of things. You know, what areas are they identified in, and how can we help as a teacher, whatever. We want to get our website up to date because I think there's one out there, but again, it hasn't been updated in a while, so we want to be able to put all this on there so it's just out there for everybody. We're going to continue having those conversations as a department and with staff and admin and things like that, but then also like that last bullet point, bringing in professional development for staff and administration, that there's some things that they just aren't aware of, and so just helping them, kind of talk about those things and know what the TAG teacher does. And then just continue with that action planning in that as well. So again, just all those things coming together. That is it. So what questions?
How many students are you currently serving?
I have about 50 at the high school.
50?
Yeah, I have over 35 from K through 4 at the elementary, so then in addition, we have 5th graders in the elementary as well.
Right, fifth graders with the 5-8, we probably over 30, 33 maybe. It varies year to year.
Yes.
Bell and Blank Center for Gifted Education says about 3 to 5% of your population, and typically are in there for academic, yeah.
The question I have is just like we talked about, this is the top end, the low end. If they're performing, they get out of the system. Do we have the same thing for the upper? If they're not performing, do they get booted out?
Yes.
And that's one thing that we're working on, that's one thing we talked about, it's not in our packet, but we monitor kids, we meet with kids, and they're tested for the next level. So right now, I'm testing 5th graders for middle school to make sure
Right.
our middle school program, what we have is appropriate for them and what they need. And if it's not, then that's communicated to parents, and, we say, maybe this isn't, maybe they were needing this before, and now their needs are met through the gen ed room, through differentiation.
Right.
So there is, again, not written down, but yeah, we do have that, but that's something that we need to put in here as well.
And it's all about a match between needs and programming.
Right.
So that's what it always comes back to, is whether the program meets their needs.
Right. I just don't want us to get into the habit of once you start TAG, you're always in
You
TAG.
start in second
Right.
grade, you're there forever.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So all
It
of
has
our-
to be earned, and it has to be a respectable type of
Right,
program.
and so we.
All of
yeah.
2nd grade is
Yep.
reevaluated.
Right.
All of 5th grade is
Yeah.
reevaluated.
And
And
of
then again at
course-
8th.
And then, of course, if we have move-ins, or if somebody starts showing signs that they need more, then teachers can recommend them at any time.
What I'm hearing you say is you're only doing it 2nd grade, 5th grade, and another time, right?
We monitor the scores
Formally.
every year, formally, but
Okay.
I have had kids who were not successful. And we've contacted parents mid-year, and we've said, this really isn't working out, they're not being very successful, and they've been taken out,
Okay.
so.
I really don't want to age myself, okay? But the first time I ran for the school board back in the 70s, the hot topic was talented and uniquely gifted. And my comment then was the same as it's going to be tonight. Mrs. Wilson addressed this. Some of the people who need to be in this talented and gifted program do not make it academically.
You're right.
They are,
You're right.
they're an airplane pilot when they're in elementary school. They're Bill Gates and
Right.
Zuckerberg,
Oh, yeah.
and I watch Shark Tank, and some of these people, school that just don't match.
Right.
And I
Absolutely.
think this is the program, and so I know that's a coming thing, but that's one thing that really, grades in math and language arts is
Right.
absolutely wonderful.
Right.
But there's other keys to success that I think they should be in this program. So,
Absolutely. And yeah, we are well aware of that in leadership, the arts, everything. It's just, where we're at right now, we're just
Right.
starting small,
Right.
but we definitely.
And that's the way I understood it, so but I just didn't want to break my, every time that the group comes, I have to say that.
Got it.
Okay.
The other thing we didn't do a ton of talking about, we did, but we just, again, it's not here, and the word is totally escaping me when kids are identified in 2 things. What am I trying to say, guys? Twice exceptional, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is why
exactly.
we have a team, because I can't do all the words. So we talked about twice exceptional students, so a student who may be special education behaviorally, but is TAG, or
Yeah.
ESL,
Right.
and is TAG.
Or
So
autistic.
those are areas we need to dig into deeper as well.
Right.
And we do already serve students in those
Yes.
areas. Yep.
Just again, it's nothing's written down.
Do
We found it a lot.
Do you go into gen ed classrooms at all with your work, or is it all school?
I do some of both. I have a group of kids that I serve daily for an hour, but then I go into classrooms as well. And sometimes co-teach or act as a coach or write whatever they need.
And I think that's more easily done at the high school, because one of the things we've struggled at the high school for quite a while now is just finding the time to get to them, because they are talented and gifted kids. They're very much involved in everything. And so trying to meet them where they're at and doing that. And then just kind of talking, we've talked competency-based and things and self-based at the high school. So I think that's going to be something that we're going to be able to do in the future and will be really great. But I think it's more easily done at the high school than elementary.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for that work. Looking forward to seeing what's next.
I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's,
Our next meeting, regularly scheduled meeting is Tuesday, June 11th at 6 p.m.
okay. And we have closed session. I think Lynette has something a motion to make.
I move that the Board of Directors of the Oskaloosa Community School District hold a closed session to evaluate an individual whose performance is being considered as provided in Iowa Code Section 21.5 and pursuant to the individual's request.
Okay. Do I need a second? I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. And I think this is a roll call vote.
Carl Drost,
Yes.
Eric Edgren,
Yes.
Shelley Hare,
Yes?
Amanda McGraw, Sharma Parlett,
Yes.
Lynette Stream,
Yes.
Rickman Holzen.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll go into closed session. We'll move to your office.
So what would happen if I...